So, first of all, we're talking about self-like parts, and much of this is coming from Marielle Pastor's wonderful talk on IFS talks with Annabelle and Tisha. So I really suggest, if that feels good to you, to go and have a listen. And I've taken it from various books, IFS books, and sources on the internet, and my own experience. But as always, you're the experts on your system, so check inside what works for you. And the first thing that I want to say, and Marielle says this too, is often self-like parts don't like to be called self-like parts, because it feels a bit less than, doesn't it? It feels a little bit like you're lacking, you're not quite, you're a little bit faking it. And these guys are so often, they're so full of the qualities of self, often, and they are such high functioning, beautifully, that their intentions are so good. So, Marielle's suggestion, and try it inside, when you meet your self-like parts, what would they like to be called? Ask them what their preference is, rather than labelling them. And that's the same with most parts, actually. It's like, a lot of my parts like their own name. But it's a handle. It's a handle that we're using for this talk. And in the IFS literature, you'll hear self-like parts, self-mirroring parts, and then other parts by name. And so check inside what feels right for you. So first of all, second of all, actually, because I've done first. Second, I wanted to just have a few words about wonderful self and what we read in the literature, and what are the special qualities of self, and in particular in relation to this. So Dick Schwartz came up originally with 8 C's and 5 P's that represent the qualities of self in each of us. And I'm just reading here: clarity, compassion, courage, confidence, curiosity, creativity, calmness, connectedness. C. Sykes and Martha Sweezy want to add choice to that. I like adding presence and wisdom and intuition and space. Again, check what are the qualities for you, and in the neuroaffirmative way that I feel is really important. There's discussions within the neurodivergent community of whether self is the same for everyone or the self is different for everyone. It certainly might look different from the outside. The fact that I can connect really well with someone sat next to me, not necessarily talking, might to some other people not look like connection, but my heart might be really there with the person sat next to me. So it's inside and outside connection. So huge topic, but I just wanted to pop that in there. So the other thing to just really point out, and I pointed this out in the meditation, is that every part also has a self. There is self in every part. And we're hoping to have self-to-part connections, but self to the self of the part connections. And some parts are so full of self-energy, and some parts are more burdened. So it's just really nice to know that, as we connect with our parts, there's a lot of self-energy anyway, often in our systems. And let's meet with that. But the qualities of self that I think are particularly important in this talk is that only self can do the deep healing work. when we meet with our little vulnerable ones, only self can do that really, really deep connection, attunement, connection with the little ones. Self-like parts, again the handle, can help things along, and they can, you know, they're amazing to sort of support other parts in the system, and you know, they can do an amazing job. And you know, actually, quite a lot of the time, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's a self-like part or it's self, because it's like no one can be in self all the time, and you know, most of the time I'm quite blended with various parts, and my self-like parts can do amazing things. So does it really matter? And it does matter to when you're doing the really, really deep healing. So I'm seeing some nodding, that obviously makes sense. So where am I at? Yes, so I'm going to give you some clues how to check, how to spot them. So again, check inside your system. You know, in the meditation, who turned up? And Marielle talks about when something isn't flowing, when you're either in an inner conversation or an outer conversation, something's not flowing, something stops. You know, it's looking pretty good, but it's not quite doing it. There's a slightly different emotional tone, maybe. Something's might be missing. The pacing might be a bit off. It might be a little bit too fast or a little bit too slow. It's weirdly too easy, or something gets blocked. So just noticing that. And she mentions particularly when there's urgency. That's when my sympathetic activation comes in, and I'm pushing, and I'm, you know, my parts are rushing through something. Trying. Whenever I say the word "I'm trying," it's like, oh, hello. That's the part. Pushing past. Trying to go and do the healing work too fast. Maybe, I don't know, checking your systems. If it might be that this might be an indication that there's a part, a self-like. How about the one, I don't know about you, about this one, you're talking with someone, maybe like in the supermarket, and you're just chatting away, and there's another part, and it's a really lovely, friendly conversation, but there's people inside going, can you just... for me, that's, you know, I'm looking all friendly and warm, and but to me that could be a part that's coming in to do something. Again, very much similar to the anticipatory scouts. This is all just a massive set of metaphors, and it's really what's working in your system, so how it fits, really. If you are working with your littlies, and the littlies, the exiles, your vulnerable ones, are looking at you, and they don't trust you, even if you look the age you are, and you know that it might be that there is someone in between you and the little one, and it could be other protectors. So, another thing is when you say, I don't know, it might be a part that is trying really hard to help you, help the process along, but I don't know is often an indication for me, and it sounds like Marielle, that a self-like part's around. So I'm hoping it's clear so far. Yeah, great. So types of self-like parts. When Dick talks about self-like parts, he mentions them in terms of managers, and that's what I thought until I sort of properly asked inside. And he talks about them in terms of caretaking, fixing, rescuing parts that are trying to come in and sort out the process. They have an agenda. So self has deep intuition and can do the healing, and doesn't have an agenda, except for healing. But self-light parts, the manager ones, they have an agenda. They have a process. They help the process, but maybe they want to actually keep the exiles at bay, out of mind. They think, act, behave much like yourself. They might be all calm and curious. I don't know, I often say words like, well, I'm really curious. I'm wondering. Oh, that must be self, but actually sometimes in my system it might not be. So there was an article on the internet I quite liked, and the person suggested, imagine one of your vulnerable little ones, if you can, or imagine a small child come and sat here and they're crying. How do I feel? What am I going to do, or what's going to happen here? And some of you are parents, I know, maybe some of you aren't, but what I am very guilty of with my own kids is rushing in and scooping up and trying to somehow make it better. And luckily I read years ago some parenting books which suggested that you connect first. And that's exactly what the invitation here is to connect first. But when you notice, you go in and you try and fix and scoop and think you know what that child wants. My inner children, my self-light parts often think they want fairy lights and lovely soft rugs. But this is connecting in, asking. The little one or the part will tell you. We don't know. It's so multi-complex in there. It's like, I don't know what this child wants. We have to connect and sit, co-regulate, breathe, sit alongside, rather than rushing in and helping. So really, really good intentions to rush in and help, but actually that child, my children certainly have told me this, when I rush in, or when my self-light part rushes in, they feel impinged upon, they feel crowded out, or they might feel even unsafer because of the, they can see my good intentions, but actually it doesn't feel safe. Therapists, anyone therapist? Yes, I can see therapists. Try and validate, comfort the hurting ones, offer some great advice. Really guilty. My part's really good at giving lots of really good advice. We don't know how people are feeling. We don't know until they tell us, even parts within us. Let's never assume. And it could be a young, even the little one could be a young protector leading us to someone underneath her or him. Them. They might be pointing towards another part. It might not actually be a vulnerable little one. It might be a protective exile. And someone already mentioned, I think, the do it right part, which I've also had as an anticipatory scout. So again, the metaphors, that's just where it works for you. Am I doing this right? Have I got compassion? Oh, tick. Have I got calm? Really guilty of this one. I can, actually it might be little legs going underneath the water and I can look all calm on the top. That's maybe my self-light part. That's not necessarily the calm self. And then look at this, my notes. When I've got more self, I have the confidence and sensitivity to go off script and spontaneously respond. Okay, so then that's the managing set of self-light parts, and those are the ones that sort of Dick Schwartz talks about. But Marielle mentions that you can have firefighting ones. So what we know about firefighters is that they are there to soothe, to look after your nervous system. Something's happened, there's been a vulnerability that's emerged, and these wonderful hero firefighters come in and they sort of swoosh in with their metaphorical water to just calm everything down and to make it better, or in the Warrior Mutiny to up the ante but take the pressure off. So Marielle talks about either the witness, anyone has a witnessing part that comes in, and it's not the connected witnessing, it's not the heartfelt witnessing. There's a slight sort of, little slightly nummy, slightly cigarette paper thin, woodenness probably is the wrong word, but a veil maybe. Locke Kelly mentions about this. He talks about, he's another IFS therapist, and he talks about the Witness Protection Program. If you're in the States, it's the sort of FBI helping things. And they're still protective, but they're slightly impersonal. Does anyone recognise any of these? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding, great. So again, just check in your heart. Another one is the groovy set of parts that are like mystical and it's going to be all right. In so many films, it's like, it's we're going to be all right. And you just know that it's, how do you know it's going to be all right? You just don't know. That it's like the, there's a silver lining, and out of suffering is growth. And so these are potentially sort of more bypassy, spiritual bypassy. Wonderful, aren't they wonderful? They really soothe and make you feel a bit better, but they may potentially, just check for their energy, not be you. Finally, Marielle talks about the self-like parts can also be exiles, the little vulnerable ones, and she suggests that these are much less common, but I don't know if you've met your free child who's just there and spontaneous and creative and just marvellously free. And that may be, with so many qualities of self. But what Marielle talks about is that you don't actually want, you can't have the free child leading the system, because he, they are free children. So then, I'm seeing nodding. They're not the self that comes behind. Really, really, really important to have your wonderful freedom and spontaneity and innocence and joy. But actually the conductor needs to have that wiser, deep intuition. And the free child is part of that, really important part of that orchestra. We need all these parts, they're part of our orchestra. And how to work with these parts, just like we do with every part. Finding them, getting to know them, feel their energy in your body, notice when they're around. When do they loom large? When do they come in? What's their good intentions? What are their concerns? We meet them and we appreciate them. Meet them with that connection. So, thank you very much for listening. I hope that's made sense. Go well.